I'm so grateful to be part of this all voices tapestry. As a yoga and meditation teacher, some of my students jokingly refer to me as the queen of relaxation. I teach embodied ways of slowing down to heal and release tension and trauma from our bodies, our minds, and maybe our souls. However, I don't always wear this crown very well. I too get caught up in doing too much, trying to balance the demands of family, my yoga studio and classes, my church life, my personal life. Several weeks ago, as part of the online Spiritual Directors International Conference, I participated in a full-day session with interspiritual teacher Mirabai Starr called Sabbath, Laying Down Your Burdens. It was a spacious day of unplugging from the busyness of our daily lives so we could tune into our inner spiritual landscape. It was a day to be still and know, to listen, to heal, to discern. At the end of the day, we were all invited to make a renewed commitment to Sabbath in some way. In a world that encourages us to be more, to do more, to consume more, that's not always easy to do. As Mirabai says, it's so difficult to fit Sabbath time into the tyranny of our life. Even our church life often becomes more doing and not enough being. I find myself wondering what kind of creative energy might be unleashed if we truly took time for Sabbath in our own lives and in our church life. My roots run deep in Community of Christ, attending church regularly growing up, as well as camps and retreats. And I always felt deeply nourished by this supportive church community. But something was also missing. I had a deep longing to connect to God in a deeper, more contemplative and embodied way. I wanted to feel God through my skin. So in my late 20s, I began a spiritual journey into yoga and meditation and other Eastern practices. This was many years ago. As I traveled to retreats and ashrams and temples from many different traditions, these practices began to point me to the mystical and contemplative underground current of all religions. As I began to teach yoga and meditation in classes and retreats in my own community, I felt a calling to share these healing practices in my church community. And so I began to share the gifts of sacred breath, embodied spirituality, and contemplative practice. I was met with mixed reactions. Some were curious. Some embraced it. Others weren't always kind. I felt the disappointment and pain of not being seen and accepted for who I am and the gifts I had to offer. And I know I'm not the only one. I know there are many of us throughout this church community, many who live on the fringe, and some who have left, who feel that our spirituality isn't always fully accepted or embraced. The Christ in me weeps for all of us who have felt that pain. Still, the Holy Spirit continues to breathe new life into this community. I find hope in the renewal of spiritual practices from the church's spiritual formation team, inviting all of us into more intimate communion with God. I find hope that even in the midst of this pandemic, we're finding new ways of gathering. I find hope in the growth of the Nurturing Spirit Ministry on the West Coast, moving from in-person retreats at beautiful Samish Island to creating connections weekly online afternoons of nurturing spirit. I find hope in the church's emerging online community, Awakening Spirituality, that seeks to reach out to the spiritual but not religious, those who are hungering for spiritual connection, but who do not find it in traditional religion or church. My prayer is to stay open to the diversity of spiritual practices and gifts, both within and outside this church. My calling and ministry is to help reclaim the Sabbath as a day, a moment, a sacrament, a way of life. And perhaps one of the missing voices in this all voices tapestry is the voice of silence. I wonder what might be revealed to us, both individually and as a church, if we all took a little more time to slow down, to breathe, to sense, to unplug from the tyranny of tasks and doing that our culture entraps us in. What might Sabbath look like in our modern world? What if we follow the lead of the Quakers and Buddhists to simply sit in silence and wait? What might God whisper to us in this silent listening space? How might the intentional practice of Sabbath transform our lives, our communities, the world?